Yo, what's good, everybody? Back with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about controllers and ways that you can improve if you feel like you've plateaued on your path to improvement within the role. I think there's things that you can take away regardless of what skill level you're at, whether you're an iron or you're a radiant player. There's definitely still things that you can improve on if you focus in on these tips that I'm going to share with you. But before I get started, I just want to thank you guys again for all the support on YouTube and honestly, mainly on Twitch as of late. I've been streaming a little bit more. I think I've streamed like maybe 6 out of the last 8 days or something like that. And I've been getting way more viewers than I thought I would with the watch parties and also me playing ranked. So I wanted to thank you guys for stopping by, for the follows, the subs, and also just urge those on YouTube to maybe take a peek, hang out in the stream. It gives you an opportunity to ask me questions that you might not be able to ask me in the YouTube comment section. Or you might notice things that I'm doing in game. You could ask me why I'm doing them or whatever. I have no problem sharing my thoughts with you guys and making it more of an educational environment to help you guys. I will say my chat is, although I don't have like a ton of viewers, my chat is pretty active. So sometimes I'll miss questions. So if you notice that I'm not missing them on purpose, but if I don't answer your question, don't feel ashamed to just type it back in the chat again. I'll do my best to get to all the questions that pop up. Anyways, so this video we're going to talk about controller, and I want to follow the format that we did in the other videos. Sorry, I have my dog on my lap. I don't know if you guys can see him. You probably can't. There he is. Just camera shy. Anyways, so we got to define the role. Okay, so what are controllers? Controllers are agents that generally have smokes or have the ability to block some type of sight line for your team so that the enemy can't see something. On executes, you'd see, your omen smoking. On certain maps, you might see a viper wall, right, blocking a sight line. And really, what your job is to assist your teammates by blocking sight lines, right, on attack, and then also make sure that you have really good communication with your teammates so that you're able to know when they intend to go in sight, because the timing of your utility, throwing your util is not enough. You need to have good timing on your utility, right? So asking questions to your team, are we ready to go? Are we committing? Can we go? All of these questions are super, super important if you want to be a good controller, okay? So again, your role is to be very supportive in the way that you play and use your utility. Generally, you shouldn't use it selfishly. There are instances where it makes a lot of sense for you to use your util selfishly, but that would be mainly on defense. On attack side, you're generally more supportive by nature, and you need to prioritize having great communication. Okay, so that's kind of the role and how it works. And I'm just going to start yapping about some things that I think are important. So I'm going to start with attack side. So, and you'll notice that a lot of the things that I say on, the other videos that I've done, whether it's Initiator or Sentinel or Duelist, a lot of these things will have some type of crossover, but the application of them will be slightly different. So I'm going to start with communication, guys. Communication is extremely important on controller. Okay, so let's just talk about attack side. Okay, let's say you're going for an A hit, right? Actually, before I even talk about in-game specifics, you need to ask your team what the plan is so that you can know what the plan is so that you can support the plan as best as you can with your utility, right? Now, knowing the plan sometimes is not enough because you need to know when you plan on executing the plan, right? As you know, these smokes, they don't last forever. They don't stay up all around. They have a set timer within them. So if we go A, but then we get stalled out in the choke, but then you threw both your smokes at the start of the round, by the time you guys intend to execute the sight now, this smoke is faded and this smoke is faded. And now your job, you did a poor job as a controller this round because now there's no sight line, there's no vision block, right? So what do you need to do? You need to actively ask questions. Hey, are we ready to go? I can smoke. I'm ready to smoke. Let's go, right? Be very directive in your communication. If you're not, if you're just kind of assuming what the other players on your team are going to do, a lot of times you're not gonna have efficient smoke timings, right? And that's what really makes a good controller, is somebody that gets the smokes down uh, on time, but also keeps them up for as long as possible because that timing was really solid. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys, because I know in a lot of my private sessions, I will just see people like they'll be in a round and they'll say, "Oh, let's rush A," and then like sometimes they'll honestly a lot of the times they'll just get KO knifed and the hit is canceled because they can't smoke anyways. So you need to stay out of the KO knife range. But then secondly, they'll throw all their smokes, and then next thing you know, there's killjoy mollies here or whatever, and we decide we're not gonna go. We go, oh, pause, wait, and then we go. So generally, a good tip for you guys if you want, because a lot of these bomb sites, you can kind of get away with throwing one smoke sometimes, like especially on A for Ascent, you can get away with not throwing this heaven smoke. So sometimes you can throw this smoke down as a means to bait out utility from the other team, and then just re-hit with a second smoke when you guys are ready. But generally, I think the best practice, if we're ignoring single maps and we're just talking about the entire game, you need to be asking questions to your team. Hey, are we ready to go? Wait, and if you see that your teammate is freaking antsy, right? Impatient Ivan, Jet Impatient Ivan is getting ready to dash out. He's salivating at the mouth with his Reyna. Now it's time. Okay, shit, these guys are going. I got to get my smoke down. So you need to be able to read. It's weird. We're playing a video game, but you need to be able to read the body language of the agents in game on your team. I know that sounds very weird, but I think you guys kind of know what I mean. You can see when one of your teammates is looking to take a fight, but you can't really. The way that you know for sure is by using your microphone and communicating with them. Okay, so that's number one. Can I have good pre-round communication? Can I ask my team? So pre-round communication. Can I figure out what the plan is? Okay, what is our plan? Can I ask for confirmation on whether or not we're ready to go out on the site? Right now, sometimes you might not need to do this if you are able to specify this in the pre-round communication. If you ask the question in pre-round, hey guys, are we doing this off rip, or are we taking control and then popping? That's a good way to phrase it, right? Now, if they say off rip, guess what? You're probably going to do something like this. You're probably going to omen blind insta, right? You stay out of the knife range, you stay back here, omen blind, and then you throw your smoke, and then you run up and you throw your second smoke, right? But if they say, oh no, let's just take control and then we'll pop whenever, then you should not smoke off rip. You should be waiting and asking your team, yo, are we ready to go? I'm ready to smoke. Okay. Another thing that's really important on attack side is when you're rotating. Like, let's say you guys go for an A hit. This is also part of the communication. You go for an A hit, but you get stalled out and you reset. Can you communicate how long it is until you get your smoke back? That's another super important thing, guys. Can I communicate my rechargeable util timings slash the way that I intend to use my util if we deviate away from the plan that we agreed upon in the pre-round? Okay? That's pretty much the big thing when it comes to communication. Now, if you want to go a step further, if you can be on top of calming when the smokes are fading, I don't expect players to know this to the second, but a general idea, like smokes going down. You know how Viper players will communicate, yo, wall down, wall down. Like, you know how the Viper wall has a bar, right? There's boom, 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 boom. Right when you get to about this bar is when you call it wall down, because you want to give your teammates a little bit of time. Same thing here with the smokes here. Guys, get ready. Smokes are fading. Boom. Like, that is a great comm to make as a controller. Okay. And then, on this, your third smoke of the round, can you communicate what you intend to smoke off? That's another one. So intentional communication. What do you intend to do with util that is coming back into your availability in your kit? That will really help your teammates in post plant. Okay. So those are that's a really big part of attack when it comes to communication. Okay. Secondly, on attack side, can I look at my comp? This is the second point now. Can I look at my team comp and can I identify whether or not I should be a scaler or I can be a little bit more passive? Okay. Now, this will change depending on what agent you're playing. Like, Omen is more of a scaling controller. Brim can be a scaling controller with the stim. Astra is generally not a scaling controller. Viper has the ability to lurk, but also can scale. Who am I missing? Harbor would probably be more of a scaler. Am I missing anybody? No, that's it, right? So, like, we have scaler, kind of a scaler, scaler, right? And then you have kind of these two more lurky lurky agents, like Viper's throwing lineups ideally for the hit. Astra's probably lurking because she has global smokes. Oh, we have Clove as well. Clove, they are definitely more of a scaler. Clove is definitely more of a scaler. They can throw their metal. They can run in and get an assist on the damage and get into the site. Okay, so that's kind of that's kind of what you need to look at is, do I need to be a scaler? Now it's not just about who you are as an agent, but it's also what agents do I have on my team, right? Imagine you have, let's just use this as, we'll use this Ascent as an example, okay? You have a Killjoy, you have a KO, you have an Omen, you have a Sova, and you have a Jet, okay? The most standard comp, okay? Let's look at the scaling agents here, okay? Killjoy is not a scaler. Sova is not a scaler. Can be a scaler, but not really. Like, generally, you want Sova on the drone or darting from a lineup spot and throwing shocks and running in if Sova needs to, right? KO can be a scaler, but there are situations where KO is throwing lineup flashes over the top. So if that's the case, I need to realize, okay, really my job on attack is get these smokes down and get as many people out of this choke point as possible. Now, what do you have on as Omen? You have the ability to TP in. You can TP blind and TP in. But the only way that you can take advantage of the util that's being thrown by your teammates is if if you're smoking from close enough to the choke, uh, because then you're able to go like this: smoke, smoke, blind, and then TP in, right? Like you could TP here, you could TP Gen, you could whatever, right? But you can't do that if you're standing back here smoking in Narnia, right? So sometimes you got to realize when it's around where you need to be a scaler. Sometimes it's okay for you to not be a scaler, but really it depends on two things: what your team comp looks like, okay, and what the enemy team comp looks like as well. Like if they have like Cypher or Killjoy, or they have no Sentinel, or there's a lot of things. Even the ults kind of matter sometimes. All right. Do I need to be a scaler based on my team comp? Am I an agent that can scale? Right. Brim can scale with the stim. Uh, Viper could even scale with the mollies. Like if you just throw them on the fly. Omen is definitely a scaler. Clove, they are definitely a scaler. And so those are the big things that you should be asking yourself, because I see a lot of controllers in my private sessions smoking from Narnia, smoking from here. So you know what I mean? Like, really prioritize the idea of getting as many people, right, coming out of this choke as possible on good timing, right? Because then you can get trade kills, right? The other thing is too, somebody swings heaven and they see three people here. Who do they shoot? They don't know. They panic and then they whiff. You know what I mean? So really, this idea of fundamentals, getting as many people out of the choke with good spacing, capitalizing on good util timings, is really, really important. But the only way that you can do that is if you identify in the pre-round if you need to be a scaler, even in the pregame, to be honest. Okay. Other thing that I want to talk about is your util usage on attack. Okay. Now this is very, very important. Uh, Generally, I would say I think a lot of people, based on my private sessions and even on pro teams, they wait for the perfect time to use their util, and oftentimes that perfect scenario will evade you, right? And you end up not using your util. You need to get reps using your util, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. Hold on one second. You need to be able to use your util and get reps doing it, so that you get better at understanding what was a good use case. Okay, this was a bad use case. Now, how could I have done it better, right? And if you're able to do that over time, you're naturally gonna get better at util usage. Okay, and it's gonna be more reactionary, which is what we want. We don't want to always be like anticipating the way that we're gonna use it. We should use it freely, use it loosely, right? Because a lot of times you're going to end up losing timings if you don't do that. Okay. So there's that. Okay. Use the util. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just get reps using it, because naturally you're going to get better over time. The other thing, I think it's important on attack side for you to util dump early on in the half as controller. Okay. What I mean by that, let's do Icebox. Okay. Actually, let's do Icebox. We're playing Viper. Okay, we're playing Viper and we go for A hits. I want you to show the enemy team that you have the ability to molly either of these spots, right? these spots are not important, but show the enemy team that you have the capability to molly some of these spots, you know, because it shows them, okay, this guy has mollies here. I can't play here, right? And if you go for A hits and you molly Gen 2 times in a row, guess who's not going to play Gen now, right? Yeah, the enemy team. And then you can save this molly for later rounds. So you want to util dump early. Make teams respect the fact that you have execute mollies, right? Now, I've used this example on Ascent with Killjoy before in my Killjoy video, and also my Viper guides. Um, Throw these mollies early on. Show the ability to throw the mollies, right? Let them know you got these lineups so that they have to respect it. If you never throw them because you're afraid of waiting, you want to wait for the perfect use case of the util, because it's hard to confirm whether or not you're getting value from it. But trust me, if you show them that you're doing it and that you can do it, they have to respect it. And if they respect it, they won't play in those areas. And naturally, you can save this util and use it later on in post plant. Okay. Now, if we're just keep going with Ascent, another great example of this is the Omen blind. I want to let this thing fly. Let it fly out onto A site early and often, and then you can kind of start dialing it back to where you save it and now you're playing in hell and you use it as a point of counter util. Okay? I'm telling you guys, this is so important. I think at lower ranks, I think you guys should just continuously use this. Just keep using it. But I think the higher up you go, you'll start to realize that people are catching onto your tendencies in terms of where you're throwing your util. So sometimes if you show early on in the half that you've been blinding Gen 4 rounds in a row, guess what? Rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, this guy's not playing Gen. Like it's that simple, right? The other thing that you can do, right? If you start the game early, let's say Viper, what's a good map? Okay, Viper split. Okay, we start the game by throwing like mollies like this. I saw these on TikTok, the Benji Fishy mollies, right? We throw these mollies at the start of the game, and then guess what? We, instead of doing site exec mollies, right? Maybe we do something like this. Now we start doing anti-flood mollies. So you want to change the way that you're mollying, and then afterwards maybe you're using it for post plant. But you want to change the ways you condition the way that you're using your util, and then you end up either greeting it or using it in a different way to try to get value later on. Okay, because the more often you do something, the more likely the other team is to react to it, and we got to kind of read that. Okay. I think those are really the big things on attack. Okay, so again, to go through it, communication, pre-round communication. Make sure you're asking for confirmation before you guys hit the site, so you guys can have good smoke timings, good util timings. When you're rotating or you're canceling a plan, make sure you're communicating when you're getting your util back and how you intend to use it. And then when you're the other thing, so not communication, but scaling / util usage. Can we figure out when we should be a scaler? Can we figure out how we should use our util in the start of the half? Are we gonna, omen blind something religiously to make them respect the fact that that's where the omen blind is gonna go, so that we can use it somewhere else to get value later? Okay. What else? And then like if you're playing a Viper agent or using your mollies, show the exec mollies early, then flip to anti-flood, and then after that you kind of just use one for anti-flood, use the other one for post plant. But you gotta think about the way that you're conditioning your util usage. Okay, so those are the big things on attack. And then I guess the last thing I'll say on attack is, like, after you've used all your util, I think sometimes you should try to figure out ways to be the first point of contact in fights. So like you'll have certain agents that might have rechargeable util, or it makes more sense for them to stay alive in post than it does for you sometimes. Like I'm thinking like, oh man, if you use all of your util, I'm okay with you being like, let's say we're on Ascent and we're playing Omen and we use all of our util and we take a main and we're playing against Killjoy ult, and it's you and Jet running through, right? I would much rather that you run through if you have all of your util gone and take this fight, ideally, because Jet might be able to get 1 to 2 kills and get her dash back up and then play around that. Hopefully that makes sense, or maybe somebody's one off their ult or something like that. It makes a lot more sense for you. Like once you get your util out, you kind of be the first point of contact in these rounds, okay? Because you don't have any recharge based on you getting kills, right? You're not a duelist. Okay, that's kind of the last thing there. Let's move on to defense now. Okay, so again, defense. I'm going to talk about pre-round communication again. You need to have a supportive mindset, and you need to have a global understanding of how your team intends to play the map. Okay, I talked about this in my Omen guides, but you need to know, even if you're playing A main and you're playing to one-way this, right? Let's say you're playing here and you're one-waying this from tree to support your jet and your KO. We might be doing some cringe stuff here. Um, you need to know what these guys over on B are doing, right? If you don't know what they're doing, you don't know how to best support them. You need to know if they intend to fight for the B main choke, if they intend to nest back site, because then you could do a one-way or you do the site smoke. If they have no intention of holding on to the choke, or maybe the enemy team has ults that don't really make it easy for them to hold on to this choke, then you need to know that so that you can support accordingly. Okay? Um, that is a big thing. You also, another thing with these smokes, guys, and this is, I'm going to kind of rip through defense and not go super in depth, but give you guys some things to think about. If you need clarification, feel free to drop questions in the comments or join up my stream or my Discord and just ask the questions there. This idea of util sponging or util trading with your util is very important, right? So you got to realize, what do your smokes do on defense? They're able to stall hits, but they're also able to block areas, right? And when you block areas of control, you force the enemy team to use util. If they're behind this and they intend to go through it, they're going to have to use some kind of util, okay? So I see a lot of people in my private lessons holding on to their utility, just wanting to smoke here. Or maybe they're one-waying, but they don't really understand the use case of it, right? Oh, sorry. And another point on attack is you can use these. Sorry, I should go back. I'm just gonna say it now because I brought it up. You can use your smokes on a lot of these maps. There's heavy emphasis on these deep lines, so using your smokes to block these deep lines, to force the enemy, to not give the enemy team good communication um, on how they should rotate, is another super good use case of your utility on attack. Okay. Um, sorry. Okay, so we go back to Ascent. Understand that your util teams have to respect the fact that you're behind it. So naturally, you win out util trade. So if you're sitting there in a round and you're not using your utility at all until there's pressure and you want to smoke the main, that's not the right way to be playing controller, because you're not baiting out utility in these chokes, which is absolutely necessary if you intend to hold on to the sites. Now, Ascent is a very defensive-sided map, but it is mainly because of this idea. Like, people have to use util in A main. If people can do a full exec on A site, it's really not that easy to hold. You know, you do something like this, right? Like, it's not easy to hold that, right? Especially with KO flashes coming over the top. So I need to make sure my KO, the enemy KO is using their knife for wine, maybe using a molly for wine, right? Using a KO flash to take a main. If we don't do that with our smokes, we don't understand the value that they get in util trade, even if we're not playing behind it. That's suboptimal play. So that's something that needs to change. Okay. And really, guys, the heart of this is just the idea of respect. I've talked about it before. If people respect that you might be somewhere, they're going to use util to clear it. They might have the balls to contact through this one way, but if they do, that's one of those risks that I'm willing to live with. More power to you. I'm willing to live and die by that. If teams want to contact through a one way like this, good job, bro. You deserve the round. Great call, right? I'm not going to let it happen again, but go for it. You know, good job. Another thing that's super important for you as controller is understanding when is the right time to counter util. Okay. Now, I've talked about this on Bind. I think Bind is the best example of this. If you're playing Brimstone, you're playing defense, and you're playing backtrack on A. Okay, you're probably playing around U-Haul area. If you're playing A, if you're playing B, you're probably playing around Hookah, maybe over here. But generally, you're playing towards A. And really, what you need to look at when you're determining whether, like, what util pieces you should be heavy counter utiling on is looking at the enemy comp. Okay, guys, you look at the enemy comp, and let's just go with like the standard Sky Viper. I know this is kind of falling out of meta a little bit, but I'm going to use it for this example. What am I missing? Yeah, we do Gecko. It's fine. So we see something like this, right? What is super important to which pieces of util are super important to their hit? Okay, to me, I look at these brim smokes. These brim smokes are super important. I look at the dog. The dog is important. I look at the nade. The nade is important, right? And then obviously the wing, the gecko util is kind of hard to read because you can get it back a lot of the times. But generally, if I see the brimstone on the enemy team use 2 smokes, I know that these are not rechargeable. I know that it's very hard for them to work the map and play the map with only 1 smoke remaining. So what does that mean? I'm gonna go ahead and get my smoke down on the choke as a point of counter util, and I want my raise, I want my viper or whoever to be pairing this smoke with a nade or a molly because we want to stall this choke out hard. Because like I said, we know that if these guys have to go back B and they only have 1 brim smoke, it makes it a lot easier for us to play these kind of crossfires from elbow, sight, cubby, right? Even playing like long like this, um, you know. So understanding what pieces of util the enemy team has that are super super significant to the success of their hit. If I can identify those, can I figure out ways to get really good timing on my counter util? Okay, so how do we get really good timing on our counter util? When you're playing Brim, you need to be sitting on your iPad. When you're playing Omen, you need to be sitting in smoke form, or you have your blind out, right? Or maybe Brim, you have your molly out. But you need to be doing this either while you're jump spotting or you do it off your teammate's contact, okay? So when I say doing it off your teammate's contact, that means, okay, if we're playing back truck here and I've got a player playing U-Haul, jiggling, jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. Guess what I'm doing? I'm sitting here with a smoke ready on this box. I click the smoke. All I got to do is right click now for it to come down. Once this happens, Raze rips a nade off this wall, so it lands right here. And then we've counter utiled the choke for a second. While this nade fades, I can go smoke shower or I can molly under the smoke. And now I've done a really good job of stalling out this hit. And remember, guys, I'm only doing this because we saw 2 brim smokes or a dog or a raised nade or the raised satcheled or anything like that. Okay, so it's there should be a trigger to the way that you counter util, and ideally you don't want to just spam your util at the start of the round all the time on brimstone because you don't get it back and it's not rechargeable. On Omen, on Clove, it's okay to kind of rip these smokes at the start of the round because you know that you're going to get them back and it doesn't hurt you as much. You have a little bit more freedom when it comes to how you use your utility. Okay. Um, Really, the other thing on defense, right? Outside of like this idea of the util sponging in the space, and this is kind of where I'm gonna end the video here. I think those are some really good things for you to think about. Is well, there's 2 things. Communicating in the retake. Make sure you're communicating in the retake the same way that you would when you're executing a site on attack. Okay, if you can kind of have the same focus in comms, ask for confirmation, let people know what util you have, let people know when you're rotating how you intend to use the util. If you can do all 3 of those things when you're retaking site and when you're executing sites, that's the key. Okay, make sure you're communicating. Yo, wait, I can smoke. Wait, I have blind. Okay, I'm gonna smoke main, I'm gonna blind this. Wait, you know what I mean? Those are the comms. And if you're reading the body language of your jet, your Reyna, and you see them freaking like salivating at the mouth, you know, like they're antsy. Say chill, wait. And if they don't listen to you, they don't listen to you. But at least you tried your best. Okay. The other thing that I want to say is don't be afraid to use your util selfishly on defense. Don't be afraid. Honestly, the best advice that I could give to some of you guys is when you're playing Omen, when you're playing Viper, when you're playing more of like these reactive smoke agents where you can kind of smoke yourself super easily, don't be afraid to buy a shorty and play in your smoke. If you get pushed, you can get so many kills. It's so OP, I'm telling you. But you should have the supportive mindset. You want to understand globally how your team is playing the map so you can support them best. But if shit hits the fan, don't be afraid to smoke yourself to survive, because survivability is really the name of the game when you're playing controller. You want to make sure you survive on attack and on defense because you need to have your smokes up for the executes on attack and for the retakes on defense. And sometimes you need to sacrifice throwing a smoke on yourself to survive versus using a smoke on a choke for your teammates on the other side of the map. Okay? But the other thing that's important with that is you need to communicate when you don't have smokes. If you use both of your smokes in the round super early on Omen, you need to tell your teammates on the other side, yo guys, I don't have smoke for 20. Play safe, right? So it's another communicational aspect of it. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to join up to my Discord. Check out my streams, ask me questions in there, or just drop questions down in the YouTube, in the comments below. And yeah, thanks so much for the support. I will see you guys in the next one.